Very privileged to be here in the Jerusalem Media Hub of Jewish News Syndicate. My name is Alex Trayman, and my guest today is Tim Ballard. He's a former CIA analyst. He's a former special agent in the Department of Homeland Security, and he is well known for rescuing children all over the world. He's the subject of the movie Sound of Freedom, and he is the director of the Tim Ballard Foundation. Tim, welcome to the studio.
Thanks, man. So good to be here.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about your credentials. You were a CIA analyst. You were in the Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah. So I worked my first full-time job after grad school was I was an officer and analyst at the CIA at the terrorism desk in the operations center, and I was there for the run-up to 9/11. And then when I learned that Muhammad Atta, who was one of the terrorists, came across the southern border at the Mexicali Calexico port of entry, I wanted to go down there. So when they created DHS, I jumped over, became a special agent. I wanted to get my hands, dirty in it, like taking guys down. And I went there with that intention. I got there, got to the border. They thought I was crazy. I'm the only guy that was asking to be at the border, which is considered kind of the armpit of all the offices.
Right.
But I wanted to be there, and I was doing this for 6 months, and boom, they said, "You're doing something else. You're going to do child crimes." I'm like, "What? I don't want to do that." But once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it, and been doing it ever since.
Wow. And, what brings you to Israel now? This is not the first time you're here.
No, this is our third trip in the last few months since July 14th. On July 14th, something happened that, kind of like October 7th, everyone just kind of buried their heads about it. But what happened in Syria was, and this has happened before, and I've addressed this, I've been in Iraq in 2015 through 19, when ISIS did the same thing to the Christians and Yazidi people in northern Iraq. So here they are again doing what they did on October 7th in Israel, just up the road. July 14th, they come in and just slaughter, like a slaughtering, like you can't, just like October 7th.
And we're talking about after the fall of Bashar Assad, which was led by the forces of al-Julani, al-Sha'ara he's called, became the new president of Syria, and he took down Bashar Assad, who was an Alawite. He is himself like a Muslim Brotherhood affiliated, he even has al-Qaeda affiliations backed by Turkey, came into...
We got pictures of him holding heads.
Yeah.
Okay, Jolani, you know what Jolani means?
Golani, yeah.
Yeah, Golan, because he was the terror of Golan Heights.
Right.
So they call him, Golani or Jolani, and now he's...
So what were his troops doing? They were going in and taking out all the minorities.
So the smoke screen, like October 7th, like everything with political Islam, everything's a smoke screen. That's how they run their operation. So to the best of our knowledge, right, when we get on the ground, we'll learn more, but they set up a fake Bedouin, what it appears to be a fake Bedouin kind of conflict between the Druze and the Christians and these Bedouin, these Bedouin tribes. And then they said, "Oh, we got to come and be peacekeepers." And they come rolling in, "Put your guns down. We're going to protect you. Put your guns down." Pop, 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 under the rule of what they believe is Allah talking them through the Quran, kill the infidels, right? This is their goal. Their goal is to kill, kill, kill. And, when talking about October 7th and everything in Israel, it's the same thing. You even got Bill Clinton saying it, and that's what it is. It's a death cult. They want to kill people. That's their mission, guys. It's nothing else. It's not about land. It's not about a state. It's about kill, kill, kill under the direction of what they interpret.
Right. So in al-Julani's troops and associated Bedouin tribes have killed more religious minorities living in Syria than Hamas killed inside Israel.
Absolutely. There's 750,000 Jews and Christians living in Syria. The main city is Ashrava, but there's villages all over. They burned like 6 or 7 churches, Christian churches, and the world kept silent.
So why did you go? Tell me.
Well, because the world is silent. I'm at home and I'm watching the news, and no one's even talking about this. And I know why they're not talking about it, because if you expose what's happening in Syria, you immediately expose what's happening in Gaza. You get rid of the smokescreen. The Western media doesn't want to get rid of the smokescreen for whatever devilish spiritual disease reason. They don't want to tell the truth. And it's a spiritual disease, I've concluded. We'll talk later about this. And so they don't want to talk about it, but the Jews and Christian people have the spirit about them, so they reveal it. They unmask it on their own. They're sending videos out saying, "Look what they're doing. When I learned about October 7th, look what they're doing here."
Okay, so you're just an individual in your own private capacity. What are you doing in Syria? What's your mission?
A Sunday night, I'm watching the news, and I just tell my wife I'm going to Israel. Because, I jokingly, but not jokingly, tell people, I end up in these briefings and telling people my opinions and things. And they're like, what agency do you work for? And I tell them, I just work for the Messiah. I call him Jesus. I don't care what anyone calls him. Maybe we'll see. I say I work for God, and it's great because there's no deep state, no red tape, and then I can get stuff done. So I just flew in August or late July. We flew to to Israel. We went up to the border. We started meeting the Druze people to learn who they are. This is a nation I've never heard of.
Right. So there's Druze that live.
There's Druze in Israel. And that was the first eye-opener. Like, wait a minute. If this is about land grabs and Israel's just this predatory land grabber, why do the Druze people love them? They love each other. The Druze people are a part of the IDF. It's like, this makes no sense. So that they care so much about this little piece of crap strip next to Egypt, but this beautiful, lush land in northern Israel, they let them have it and give them more and protect them. It makes no sense, right? So I start waking up like, oh, this is interesting. So then I get to the border. I start doing videos. I'm like, let me in. From the border. On my social media, I have a significant following, and I'm just like, let me in, let me in. There's a gate up here. Open. It's a military gate up in Halat. And I'm just like, let me in. And then what happens is, again, God just starts working, and I get a call, and I say, hey, will you go to Jerusalem? Some people want to meet you. This is the week of August 11th through 17th. So I go down to Jerusalem, I go to the King David Hotel, I walk downstairs, I open the door, they open the door, and there's all these members of Congress, my favorite members of Congress, and Ambassador Huckabee. And they're talking about this issue. And they're like, hey, what's going on? Like, you were just up there? Like, so I start participating, and these guys are all like, they transcend politics. They're just about truth and righteousness and helping the oppressed. And so I start giving them my thoughts and opinions. I said, what do you want? I said, I want that military gate opened. I want to go into Syria. I want to go in and see it and show the world what's going on. And a representative from the administration, from the Israeli administration, said, look, Tim, we've never opened that gate for a civilian since we became a nation in 1948. Certainly not a foreign civilian. 12 hours later, I got the call. They're opening the gate for you. So we put our gear on. We had everything ready, and we made entry into Syria.
You just went by yourself, or you were escorted by?
Oh, the IDF is all over this. They're awesome. So we forward deployed into Syria. And lo and behold, here we're thinking we're the tip of the spear in the rescue of these people. No, IDF has been out there from day one. They're rescuing Christians and Druze, and the media doesn't want to talk about it. They're heroes and they're volunteers. Like, only they don't make people do this because it's very dangerous. But these are soldiers, IDF soldiers, IDF medical personnel, nurses, doctors, and I just like want to weep. I'm like, you guys are amazing. You're heroes. You're out here rescuing every day. They're rescuing Jews and Christians and taking care of them, and they're wanting. So now we're working together to get further in and push this corridor. You know, the tagline of this interview is, open the corridor, open the corridor. We need to open the corridor, right? And that's been our mission ever since, to open the corridor so we can get provisions in and find out.
How long were you in Syria?
It was, that part I can't talk too much about.
Okay.
Because that gets into things I don't want to get in trouble, but so.
But you're now about to go back into Syria.
Yes. I can say that much. So we went back to Congress, back to the U.S. Congress was on recess during this time, so we went back and we got a briefing together of the best congressmen. Okay, the guys who think and pray and believe in God. Okay, and aren't tricked by the smokescreen. So I'm there with some administration officials from Israel, and we brief them. We show them the blood and guts, and we have to, and they're just blown away. Like, what is going on? And I'm like, look, please, like, you got to get this corridor open. You have the Caesar Act, which is the consideration to lift to lift the tariffs on Syria. Like, don't do it unless you leverage this. Get the corridor.
What's this corridor? Describe in detail.
So basically, there's a highway. It's a 10-minute, helicopter ride from either Jordan or Israel to Shueva. It's pretty close. We need a secure corridor where we have military protection and we can start bringing in the provisions. They're all here. We have provisions. The U.S. has so much in Amman for Gaza, even though we know Hamas does it. They steal it and sell it at the black market. But you got all Israel, U.S., UN. We have all this stuff. Like, divert some of it, and instead of giving it to Hamas to go sell in the black market, send it to the Christian and Druze. But what we don't have is Al-Shaddai's permission yet, and he's just playing behind the smokescreen of, I'm a hero, and then behind the scenes doing other things.
Well, I think the United States has a lot of leverage with them now.
A lot of leverage. So what happened, pursuant to our briefing, what happened last week, and again, this goes unnoticed by the media, an amazing deal was made that the U.S. was kind of watching. They were participating in the deal. It's like an MOU, so it doesn't have a lot of teeth, but it was made between Jordan. They didn't want Israel at the table, obviously, but they got Jordan and Syria made an agreement last week, basically saying, we will let you bring in provisions from Jordan, humanitarians, we can come in, we can bring everything. And then they make these promises that are fake promises, but we'll hold them to it. They said, we'll do a tribunal of what happened, truth and reconciliation committees and all this stuff. And I thought, yeah, who's going to oversee those? Sharia law, like the same guys who did it are going to now judge it. Yeah, no. So, but on paper, we're there. on paper, we can go in, we can look at everything. We want to rebuild the churches, the Jews and Christian churches. We got to get provisions. Babies are dying every day. They don't have medicine. They don't have hospitals. They're dying every single day. So I'm grateful to President Trump, to the administration on both sides who kind of got this deal made quietly, but no one's actually tried it yet. We're the first to try it. We're going to test it and see if we get a bolt in the head or a corridor. We'll find out.
Let's talk a little bit about the ambassadors. You mentioned Mike Huckabee. He's close with President Trump. He's United States ambassador.
Amazing.
And then you have...
he should run for president again.
Yeah, he did run for president.
He did. He's pretty in.
And then you have Tom Ballard, who's also close with the president, who is officially the ambassador to Turkey, but also acting as the ambassador to Syria. Are these two on the same page? They're working together?
I don't know the ambassador from Turkey. I'm hopeful. I mean, I know that he put his guys on the ground to make a deal, and the deal was signed, and the U.S. was there. So he seems to be moving in the right direction, but he's got to thread needles all over the place.
I mean, his comments on Israel are not kind, I would say, but I understand that he's in Turkey, he's in Syria,
right. You got to get these guys. Look, yeah, he's saying things that Trump's saying. These guys, I don't know how Trump does this. In the Middle East, it's so easy to lay a smokescreen because you got to thread needles everywhere. You got Qatar, who's an ally, giving us Air Force One. At the same time, you got Qatar giving top cover and money. They give like $10 million a month to Hamas. So President Trump's got a hard job. He's got to thread needles everywhere and make deals. Nothing's black and white, as you know, in the Middle East. It's threading needles constantly, and so we got to give them some leeway. Maybe Al Shaddai is a thug, but maybe he's our thug, and maybe something's worse than him.
Right.
So you play the hand you've been dealt, and I think President Trump's doing an excellent.
But as you said, he's been coming in and been slaughtering minorities, Druze, Christians.
Well, he says he's not. He says it's the Bedouins and his others, but there's evidence to suggest otherwise. So this is we got to break through the smoke screen. This is why when I'm going in, when we go in, we're going to be loud and we're going to bring cameras. You got to document everything to break through the smoke screen.
You've also been trying to get into Gaza.
Yeah.
What do you hope to see there?
Look, people need to understand. Like I'm posting a lot about Christians and Jews and Druze and minorities all over are getting hammered in Nigeria, in Sudan, in Eastern Europe, in Syria, right? But we got to understand, like, of all the demographics that are getting beat up by political Islam, the biggest targets, the biggest demographic of victims is actually peaceful Muslims. Right. And we got to be honest about this. The Gazan children, their first and foremost enemy, 100% is Hamas. Can you imagine living under Hamas rule? They're stealing their food and selling on the black market to buy more terrorists. They have this tunnel system, as you know, that's bigger than the New York subway system. Those kids don't get to hide there. No. They put the kids on top. They have this tunnel system underneath. And so everybody above in Gaza is automatically human shields. That's the point.
Right. We've seen a lot of reports from soldiers that have been inside buildings demonstrating how the tunnel system is coming up into the residential building, and it's coming up under the beds of the children's rooms.
That's the point.
And in schools.
And that's the point. And the media and the left they're such idiots. I swear they have a smokescreen of a spiritual disease. And they buy it. It's like, it's a smokescreen. So it's like, oh, look at the destruction in Gaza. Like, it's very unfortunate. But even Bill Clinton, who has to play to a woke crowd, I got to give it to him. He's got integrity because he was there in the 90s in the Oslo Accords. He watched Arafat lie to him. And, people need to understand this. In 96, I believe it was, and he made a deal. Was it Sharon?
This is before
or Barack?
This is Yitzhak Rabin.
Rabin, okay, I don't, yeah. So, and these guys are more kind of leftist altogether, and they were optimistic, and they said, and they had the amazing two-state deal. They gave them all of Gaza, 96% of the West Bank, 4% of any other piece of Israel, anywhere.
We were really actually talking about Camp David in 99 with Ehud Barak.
Yeah. Okay, and so there, you guys got everything you want, and Israel's like conceding, take it. And then Arafat in the end's like, nope. And then Bill Clinton's, he's still pissed. He can only talk about it. He's like, these guys want to kill. If you give them land, they just want that land to launch their next attack. It makes me sick to my stomach. I know it was done in good faith, but they gave Bethlehem. That's sacred to me as a Christian. They gave Bethlehem away. It was 80% Christian in the 80s. Now it's like 5%. And so what happens is that's the new launching pad to kill people. It was never in good faith on the other side of things. And then you got Tucker Carlson bringing this nun on, talking about, it's so dumb. I'm so frustrated because what she says is, oh, Christians get beat up in Israel. Are you kidding me? I'm a Christian in Israel. I feel safer here than New York City for sure. LA, I feel the safest here than anywhere in the world.
If you would fly over Jerusalem or drive through Jerusalem, you would think that you might think that Jerusalem
Vatican City
is a Christian city because of all the churches.
We are so loved. The Christians are so loved by the Jews. And so
and they have all the best property in Jerusalem.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. And the ass backwards argument that Tucker is allowing on his show is to say, oh, well, the 5% of the Christians are getting beat up by the IDF. That's like saying that during World War II, if a group of Christians cuddled up in Berlin and decided good, bad, or indifferent to stay near Hitler and they got hit, it's like saying the Allies' intent was to hurt Christians. That's BS. That's not, and that's the same analogy. Like, they're not beating up Christians. The Christians decide to stay in Bethlehem and other places, and maybe they had a reason to do that, but it's not the intent. Get out if you don't want to get hit. And so to do this ass backwards turnaround and make it and paint this is part of the smokescreen. Tucker needs to stop with the smokescreen. He's hurting everybody there, and I love him. I love Tucker.
Why is he doing it? Or first of all, why do you love him?
I loved him before he started doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
You know,
why is he
feel ill intent toward him, but I don't know why he's not talking about, look, what they're doing. And Candace and I love Candace too. We're good friends. She's donated so much money to help us rescue kids in the past. And what they're doing is they're buying into the smokescreen by helping Hamas. Hamas wants to divert attention away from the fact that they have the tunnel system, away from the fact they're stealing food, away from the fact that they're the bad guys. And so they're directing softly or through influence to get these people to say it's Israel, it's Israel, it's Israel. I mean, to the point that Candace is now talking about the Star of David is actually a satanic symbol of the hexagon.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
I just saw Tucker Carlson did an interview with somebody talking about how Kabbalah is the occult devil worship and stuff.
It's not. Judaism is beautiful, everybody, and it's part of our heritage as Christians, you know. And so what they're doing is they're running cover for Hamas. But every time they spend an hour talking about some lie about Israel, that's an hour less. They should be talking about the Gazan children getting beat up and used as human shields in Gaza. So they're doing a great disservice.
But Tucker and Candace, they're smart people, right? I mean,
They're smart people. That's why I can't understand it.
It doesn't take too much common sense.
It doesn't take
to realize that Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran developing nuclear weapons.
Here's my answer to the question. I don't know if Tucker Carlson is in fact taking money from Qatar, he needs to say it. Because I can tell you right now, I will promise everybody for the rest of my life, and I'm supporting Israel, for the rest of my life, I'll look at the camera, I will never take money from Israel, ever, because I don't want to lose my credibility. And they never offered, by the way, but I'm posting enough, like a million plus followers watching me, I would never take money from anyone because I lose my credibility. But let me explain what I think is happening. It's a spiritual disease. Tucker just said recently, I think last night or 2 days ago, he's like, the Christians are the chosen people. You know, why are we making the Jews the chosen people? Well, let me explain why. As a Christian, I will tell you that the Jews are the chosen people. Isaiah says they're the witness people. They're the witness people. Okay, they're the people of the Bible. And what we're supposed to do under God's plan is to follow their story. There's a covenant on the land. And this dispensational bullcrap that Jesus came and the covenant disappeared on the land. Are you going to defy God? God says in Genesis 13, Genesis 17, it's a forever covenant. It's an everlasting covenant. The Jewish people are the house of Israel in broader terms. That land is theirs forever. You can't erase God's words, and Jesus didn't erase his words. Whether he's the Messiah or not, he didn't erase those words. So why is that important to me? Because that's the blueprints. When the people were good, like Joshua, like David, and then Solomon was good for a while, then he went bad, and what happened? The Babylonians come in. This is important. This is how you live a covenant on the land. George Washington understood this. George Washington, when we built our nation, he emulated the covenant from the Bible to build one nation under God. He was open about it. In 1973, Dr. Lutz, a political scientist, did a study on which of all the philosophers influenced most the founding fathers. Was it Hobbes, Locke? Was it Plutarch? Was it Cicero? It was the Bible. It was the Jewish Bible. It was the Old Testament, because he said there's a covenant on the land. You understand? So what we're doing, we got to keep following it. Keep following it. The modern day scripture, it's happening. Look at the miracles. The war for independence in 48, the war in 67, Yom Kippur 73. Those were miracles. People need to study. I know you have. I'm preaching at the choir. Those were miracles like unto Old Testament miracles of Joshua. miracles. You can't deny it.
I mean, we just saw a 12-day operation where Israel attacked Iran incessantly to take out their nuclear program, and we ran thousands of sorties. We didn't lose a single plane or a single pilot.
Because the covenant on this land, the Abrahamic covenant attached to the Jewish people, is in effect. And if you stop being good, like Solomon stopped being good, the Babylonians might come in. So we need to support you, and we need to emulate the story. This is the witness people. If you feel better about saying not chosen people, but witness people, then do it. They're witness people. What I want to say is, it's okay to criticize Israel. I criticize Solomon. I'm supposed to. If Bibi does something, criticize him, but watch them. I wouldn't stop looking at Israel history and supporting them to do the right thing and activate the covenant any more than I would just burn the Old Testament because Solomon did something wrong. So if it is spiritual, which it is, if the devil wants to put a smoke screen, he does want to put a smoke screen. He doesn't want Christians and the world to watch Israel because that's the witness people that we're going to learn things from, like George Washington did. He is going to blind people spiritually. And that's what I think. And I mean no disrespect to Tucker or Candace, but I think that's what's happening. It's a spiritual smokescreen to keep people from looking at what I would call an extension of the Old Testament story of the house of Israel.
Let's look at it from the non-religious side, okay? The United States, Israel are allies.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Obviously people know that the United States helps Israel with its defense, but also Israel gives a tremendous amount of benefit.
Unbelievable amount of benefits, guys.
To the United States.
Wake up, the tech community. The weapons and the intelligence alone. The intelligence alone is insane. The worldwide, especially Middle Eastern intelligence that we get is insane. What they're doing, they do things that maybe we don't want to do, but they're doing it. I don't know. I don't have all the details, but I know we're getting insane intelligence. And the other thing is the weapon system. Like David Sling and all these anti-missile defense technologies. Understand, and this, I don't want to sound cold because I see this as spiritual, but let's get cold and let's get secular for a minute. You have these weapon systems that Israel is developing because they need to. When you need to, you birth some pretty awesome stuff. And then it's battle tested. You have battle tested military technology, and we get to benefit from it. So imagine Israel as a military base, essentially, that protects America. So I see these conservative podcasters saying, we have no business. Are you kidding me? It's the most valuable intel base, okay, if you want to see it that way, that we could possibly have. Why would you give it up?
Yeah, let's talk about, for example, the F-16s, F-35s. Nobody's using those F-35s in combat situation the way Israel's doing it.
Right.
When Israel was dealing with Yemen and dealing with Iran, they figured out how to get more fuel onto those F-35s so they could run longer missions and come back with less refueling. That information gets transferred back to the United States, back to Boeing.
It's invaluable. It's invaluable from a military perspective. It's invaluable. I would double the money we give to Israel to have that intel to protect my family and my children, period. I don't know why people can't see this.
Well, do you think that now the war may be coming to a conclusion?
I hope so. Hamas are notorious liars and cheaters, but I think Trump, he's a great deal maker. He seemed to position all the key players in the Middle East around this, and so I think with enough pressure, I think they know that it's over. It's game over.
Do you think that when we get to that game over and people, the combat is finished, that Americans can come back around and see, who is on the side of good in this battle?
It's already happening. Look at my post right now. It's like, wake up, guys. I called out these podcasters, and they're my friends. Some of them are my friends. I'm just like, guys, now that the dust is settled, look what side you are on. You are on the side against God and children. And I don't say that lightly. I don't say that casually. You were wrong. And you, as it turned out, and I say to them, history and heaven, we're watching and recording everything you did. You were a parrot and a pawn in the hands of the most brutal terrorist organization on the planet. And at the end of the day, all your lies and your spews and your false accusations at Israel, all it was an affront to God's children. And I always say this, I don't have an ideology because children don't have an ideology. I'm not this or that. I just look at children. What they want, I want. And if you do that, it's black and white. Hamas are the bad guys. People who fight Hamas are the good guys. Done.
And you deal with children a lot, and we see that children in Gaza really are abused by Hamas.
I'm hurting for these kids.
The indoctrination, the fact that they're going to these summer camps where they're basically being trained to be martyrs when they grow up.
We have the footage. These kids are like, I want to kill Jews. They put fake knives in their hands and pretend to kill Jews and Christians and whoever. And they're like, it's horrifying. It's the most severe form of child abuse. And then they'll turn around and use them as human shields and have them killed. You got the architect of October 7th, Haine, this guy. I mean, he came out in 2017 and said, we will sacrifice the children of Gaza to spark the revolutionary spirit of Allah, whatever. And then after October 7th, he says the same thing. He's open about it because he knows the smokescreen is so well planted again on the West. He comes out and says, we are proud to sacrifice Gazan children to make our statement, It's unbelievable. He says it, and we don't believe him. How many times? For 1,400 years, by the way, they've been saying who they are. And 1,400 years later, the Western media, even the conservatives, aren't believing them. This is not new.
So on the one hand, you have children that are indoctrinated from a young age. You see the summer camps, you see the textbooks, where you definitely have people in Gaza that, grew up with textbooks where the math was, well, if you had 10 Jews and you killed 3, how many are left? This is called math, right? So at that point, how do you come around after that indoctrination and say that the society that is innocent people? Right. It's on the one hand, they're abused, right? They're abused people. But on the other hand, how do you suppose for one moment that even after the conflict ends, this round of conflict, that there won't be another round of conflict because you have that level of indoctrination? How do you cleanse that?
So I have 2 answers. One, it's truth and reconciliation time. One of the great benefits that will come from the end of this will be to go in, and we got to do it, all of us, expose, so we can see when the dust settles what was really happening. 1. 2, your question's wonderful. It's a great one. How do you think that the next generation of Hamas wasn't just born by this indoctrination? I go to Ronald Reagan. I see how he dealt, and the parallels aren't perfect, but when we grew up in the 80s, right? We know the Soviet Union was the threat. It was scary as heck. 20 million people dead under Stalinist ideology. And everybody was about detente and let's not make them mad. Reagan shows up, as he should show up, in a Trump-like spirit, and says, no. And he believed in the spirit. This is why it's a spiritual war. He's a spiritual man. He said, I believe that God cares and loves all those Russian people. I don't blame them all, as brainwashed as they might be. I don't blame them for the 20 million deaths under Stalinist ideology. And he started identifying something called the underground church, okay? And he said there's a divine plan. And if you don't see this spiritually, we're not going to win. He saw it spiritually. And what happened? He moved forward with a plan to liberate this underground church, and it happened. It worked. In the dying days of the Soviet Union, the impossible happened. The people rose up. The people started marching on their capitals all through the Eastern Bloc. The Berlin Wall falls down, and the impossible happens. So I make application to a divine plan for the Gazans. I believe God loves every one of those children, and I believe he will work with them. We need to help him by exposing, by providing for these Gazan children right now. I have plans I'm working on to get them and heal them from this trauma of war and get them out of this mindset.
How do you do that?
Well, you have to provide them everything, the basic needs. It's like any operation I've ever done where you rescue the kids at the end. You've got to provide them the basic needs first. Let's start giving them food instead of having their food stolen and them starve. Stop using them as propaganda tools, as they've been doing, like taking the Western media takes pictures of kids who have preconditioned ailments like cerebral palsy. Like, oh, look, the Jews forced famine. I mean, it's gross. The Western media is gross. They're child abusers. Okay, that's what and they knew they were doing it. So we have to expose it, give them the basic needs, and then you got to bring in therapy. You got to bring in, I would say, God in whatever form that is, healing, whatever is healing, and we have all those tools. That's why I'm here. We know how to do this, but now it's going to be on a mass scale. We need help. People need to come in. We need to heal the Gazan children so they don't become the next generation of Hamas.
Well, are you just one guy, or is there an
Oh, we got, God's calling people out. People are coming together all over, which is another reason why we got to stop this the Jews aren't the chosen people. We need everyone to be the chosen people. I don't care about everyone needs to be the chosen people, work under God and heal these children and rescue the Christians and Druze and the Alawites up in Syria. We have to protect Israel to make sure that never happens again. We have to, if everybody would just see the world through the eyes of children, it's very clear what needs to be done. It's very obvious. You get through the smokescreen real quick. Make yourself a Gazan child. Make yourself a Jewish child in the kibbutz on October 7th. Make yourself a child in Al-Shweda, a Christian or Jewish baby. And all of a sudden the world goes, all the smokescreen disappears.
And you see Trump like a Reagan-like figure in terms of ending the Cold War?
I do. I think, look, he's tough as heck and doesn't care. He does the right thing. He could be more Reagan-esque by tapping more into the spiritual. He's there. He's definitely getting there, and I think the presidency has molded him into that.
So the assassination attempt, I think.
Oh, he praised God. Look, that was a beautiful thing for him. That was a conversion moment. So more spirituality, and I'm not so worried about Trump. I'm worried about some of the other people in his administration need to take on that spirituality too. You cannot win this war if you don't understand it through a biblical sense, a covenant sense, an Abrahamic covenant sense, and their spirituality. You got to run the government like David ran the government. Okay, he was an amazing leader because he made the application, the spiritual application with the political. Otherwise, we're screwed. Because you don't think the dark side that we can't see is not fighting? Of course they are. It's spiritual and physical, and if you don't put them both together, we lose. I promise you that.
Tim Ballard, thanks so much for being with us.